May 6th, 2020. We have Purple Politics. We are here. We're ready today. And we got a report from the Heartland. Another special coming at you where we got Pops in the building. How you doing today?
I'm doing good. Team Steadfast is doing good. I'm here in Mama's Den, the Bear Den, Mama's house right here.
Nice.
As we know, those who haven't joined Purple Politics before, Purple Politics is all about those people in the middle who are still struggling to find the perfect party. We're not fully Republican and red. We're not fully Democrat and blue. And we're not against either side. But we're the swirl. We're the purple swirl in the middle trying to make sense of politics. So that's where we are today. And every week we try to give a shout out to some good things being done and shout out to both sides where some improvement could be made. And just kind of going back, a huge shout out. One of your Ed Stead's rules was the 7 little words, all being said, I could be wrong. And we had mentioned this in Massgate last week, that the public was rather disappointed, not only with Pence and Trump's administration, but also with the health care, not making them put the mask on. But we have an update. Pence today said directly, I should have worn a mask at Mayo. So a shout out to him for at least coming forward and saying, I should have done better. And that's okay. I really like that. We all should and could do better. So shout out to him on that. So that's my update from there. What do you got? Any? Can you perk either side? I always perk too the left for trying to help the little guy as much as they can, and I appreciate that. And I believe it or not, I give Pelosi a shout out for she's always talking about testing, tracing, and treating. Let's keep working on that. That's both sides can agree on that. Oh, and then a huge shout out to the left. Mika, everybody should Google this. Go on Morning Joe and Mika, who's Brzezinski is Joe's wife, Scarborough, and she not only did a fair interview with Biden on the Tara Reid issue, but didn't just give them all softballs. And that is the complaint a lot of people on the right would have with the left. They're always throwing up softballs to the left and always coming high and inside when they're talking to the right. So a shout out to her. She did a nice job interviewing Biden. And then watch her summary at the end. She did a pretty darn good job, which she should. The amazing thing is, this shouldn't be something that we'd have to shout out and say a good job. Both sides should be kind of throwing high and inside at all times. Don't hit the guy you're interviewing, but high and inside's okay. And once in a while, give them a slow pitch softball is fine too, which goes right back to kindness. Can both sides just be a little kinder? But a shout out to Pence for saying I should have worn the mask, and a shout out to Mika for a solid interview. So there's my 2 thumbs up to both sides today. What do you got?
Yeah, I definitely want to see Pence continue to prove it. I mean, you know, Pence, he is the head of that task force, and I would expect him to know those types of things going in. I want him to...
Wouldn't you think? That comes down to lead by example. Wouldn't you think?
Yeah. And so he still needs to kind of prove that to me. But, I mean, it's nice to see a politician at least... apologize for something, and hopefully he rights that wrong. I would hope that you don't see him without a mask while these restrictions are still in place. It continues to prove that, you know, when you're a leader, you have to abide by the expectations that you have given to the community that you're leading. You also have to apply those same expectations to your own life. We've seen a lot of hypocrisy on both sides with it.
Absolutely.
But it's, you know, right now the Republicans are at the head of this ship, and they do deserve to be scrutinized the most when it comes to leading it appropriately. And in that case, he didn't. So what did I just kind of cheers? I guess one of my cheers would be to, you know, California and the governor opening up the beaches. So
I heard that.
So state beaches are open. I'm still starting to get a better understanding of like what's a state jurisdiction, what's a local one. So and hiking trails are also open. So I don't know if like Runyon Canyon's actually open because that seems to be more of an LA City department. But though this mayor has generally taken the word of like what Governor Newsom says, then our mayor has been passing it on towards our more like local jurisdiction. So I would hope that all of our hiking trails and beaches are open at least within the next week or two.
Yeah, you have thousands of miles of beach, so it's just baffling. But I bet there was a lot of excitement when you can finally go to the beach. Now, like you and Lulu are in Long Beach area. What is it? 5 minutes to the beach. It's got to be wonderful to go down there.
Right. It's just funny. Like there was a huge hoopla last week of we have to shut down all the beaches because 2 weeks ago there was a lot of people out there. I guess we're gonna have to get used to things changing quickly in this COVID climate, because a week or two really matter. A week too early or a week too late are gonna be really vital, and so I'm not gonna give too much pressure to a government and our governor, at least on this one, where it kind of feels wishy-washy. But I would say he's made the appropriate decision. He's opened it up when it seems as though he's making it based on his inner circle saying that it's appropriate, led by scientists and appropriate studies. So I go, all right, let's do it.
We're sailing in a storm. You and I have sailed out of Lake Pepin between Minnesota and Wisconsin a bunch of times. And when you're sailing in the storm, buddy, you're just doing the best you can. You shouldn't be harping on the captain. You can give a little insights on the sail, tackling this way and that way, but everyone's trying to get to the other side safely. So let's give them a little break. Now I'm going to shout out this, to me, busting the chops on folks today. I would like to know what you think about the salon sentencing. The gal in Dallas.
We're not there yet.
Oh, we're not there yet. I'm sorry. Where are we at?
No. So our next topic today is Ahmaud Arbery.
Lead us on that.
Tell me about that. This is a 25-year-old guy that was on a run, and he was in his local neighborhood, a typical run that apparently he does like every single day. And
just out in his neighborhood, putting in his 3 to 5 miles, doing his thing.
Right.
Normal life. And
so there was these two then white males. So black male ends up getting shot, who's Ahmaud Arbery.
What city and state?
We're in Georgia, and it's like Brunswick, Georgia.
Okay.
And the two people that shot him, one guy was an ex-police officer, and he's with his son. They are sitting there waiting in their truck. Son is actually outside of the truck, armed, has a shotgun in his hand. It seemed like they maybe like drove in front of him to create this altercation. They are claiming that they were being vigilantes in a situation where he met the description of an individual that had like broke into some houses recently. And there's a few things that seem to be really bizarre, and it's going to be a case that we'll just continue to track. One, first of all, what the heck were these guys doing bringing their guns to a place where this guy's jogging? So it seemed like they knew his general normal path. They stopped him during it, and I would say they absolutely had a malicious intent in mind from the beginning. It seems like it's a disgusting, racist act that happened. And then why would this like not been dealt with earlier? This case, the shooting happened in February. I think it was February 25th. And now it's...
I quite honestly haven't even heard it out in Heartland at all.
And this is something that really started to come live yesterday, where this video got released, and it's it's a really emotional, disgusting video where you see two armed white guys stop a young black gentleman who's jogging through his neighborhood, and they shoot him on sight.
Is he dead?
Oh yeah, he's dead. So
what the hell?
It's a bizarre video to watch.
Do we find it like on YouTube, or where would I find it?
If you Google, honestly, just recent shooting, Ahmaud Arbery's name is going to be all over the board,
okay.
and it'll be on every single news coverage. Probably right now, you're going to already be experiencing it on all the news stations, because it's a disgusting, vile act. There's no reason that this should have taken place. The two people that shot him have yet to go or be in jail, so they're still like on the loose. And
are they out on bail, or do they even know who they are?
From my perspective right now, it almost seems like they haven't even addressed this issue that had taken place on February 25th until now. So that's the weird part about it, where these guys are still out there, and they murdered this guy cold blood in this seemingly like racial act, and now we're all just becoming aware of it, and it took place a while ago.
Yeah.
So,
well, of course, you're always innocent until proven guilty. That said, in a case like this, there should be able to have a bail, but the bail should be so high that they can't even get out.
Well, yeah, they're yet to be found yet, and I think a lot of people are looking at this case saying, why hasn't the local, state, and maybe even FBI looked deeper into this quicker? Why does it take a video to be released in order for people to finally act? I'm really getting sick of us having to always take things into the court of a public opinion before our court system does it. This is a disgusting, vile act. This is murder in broad daylight, and now the local authorities are saying like, well, we're going to bring it to a grand jury.
Yeah, well, it certainly sounds like it would be in the realm of hate crime, which would certainly ratchet it up the ladder hugely. Well, we'll have to follow this one. This will be interesting.
Yeah,
my eyes haven't been on it, but we'll see what's up.
It's a huge emotional topic that has been brought to light within the last day and a half, and we'll kind of continue to track it. I would like to see the opinions of Trump and Pence on these types of issues. I think they do need to stand up against these types of hate crimes. It's continually a thing that I don't appreciate the right in how they're generally addressing it. We have to bring it to the forefront. We need to address it. We need to denounce these types of racist, vile acts, and then we need to create systems in place to address these types of things. And two white guys that shoot this young guy in broad daylight, like, these cases just have to be brought to the top immediately and say, how did this happen? Why have we not caught these two guys yet? Why have we not put resources in place to make sure that they are brought to justice? It's happened too many times over that a video has to come out in order for these things to be addressed. So we'll continue to kind of look at it. Obviously, this is one of those things that's going to be brought under a major microscope nationally. So we'll continue to address it. But thoughts and prayers obviously go out to the family, and even outside of thoughts and prayers, we need to start seeing action when these things happen. We need to pray about it, but we also need to act against these types of vile acts.
Well, you can I just Googled it, easily found on YouTube, and I thank you. My generation, 50 and up, and I'm in my 7th decade, wants to do a shout out to you guys. Our whole generation's really been slow. You got me first into MySpace when your sister was at SMU, Southern Methodist University. Then you got me into Facebook, and I have 5,000 friends now, thanks to you. Instagram, probably quadruple that. Snapchat, I thank you for all those instant sources of information. Another time we're going to talk about on how some of those sources of information are limiting what can be posted, and that's another whole episode. That's baffling when some information is out there that they kind of wanted us to decide, or I'm sorry, the higher ups like the Gates of the world and the Zuckerbergs are deciding, no, no, the public shouldn't need that because that's false information. Really? Who's to decide if it's false information? Let the public see it and decide.
Yeah, absolutely. So, next up is, was this virus lab made? You know, this initially started as a big, ridiculous conspiracy theory. Not to say that it's still on the conspiracy theory. It's in that realm still.
For example, summarize the conspiracy theory. Those who are not into that.
I think actually I go to you on this. I think you have a better education on what are some of the thoughts and beliefs that are happening with this.
Well, initially it was the bat in Wuhan, and then there was some thoughts. Was there involvement with that lab? And you can Google a ton of information on YouTube now and Instagram, and I encourage you to look at a bunch of the information out there. And it seems like they are isolating it down to the lab. And then the question is, was it a natural occurring virus, or was it something that was man altered? And then if it was man altered, why was it man altered? Who ordered it to be man altered? And what the heck's going on? Because there certainly seems to be a huge cover up in China about it. They don't want to admit at all it came out of that lab. And I think everybody should judge for themselves by looking at a couple of videos, pro-lab and anti-lab, and decide yourself what you think. But right now I'm going with my own thoughts that it was a Hunan lab. That
so you are going to step out there and go kind of lean towards this side of, you think it's potentially broken out of a lab.
Yes.
Okay.
And
nice.
Broken out. I don't think it was intentionally let out of the lab, but I think this idea that it naturally jumped from a bat to humans in a wet market in China is false at this point. You can see like that type of bat isn't even found within like 600 miles of that location. Plus, culturally, that wasn't a delicacy that they use in that area.
Sure.
So, but don't listen to anybody's word on it. Start digging at it. Purple Politics would say, dig, both sides, and come to a conclusion yourself.
And I do think we have to preface this discussion. This is coming from being a YouTube scientist. Like, that's where this data is being drawn from, right? Like, it's this type of knowledge is coming from a group of people that are building their knowledge through different videos on YouTube. So it still is conspiracy theory space.
Probably so. Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and then we won't even go there. But conspiracy theory to who started it really starts getting out there, which we'll direct in a couple of weeks. Did the Chinese do it? Did the Chinese do it alone? Were there entities outside of China that were aware of it? Was there funding from outside of China that was aware of it? Is it just China involved in this, or is there multiple players? What's going on? So it'll be interesting. But boy, oh boy, whatever happened, did this blow up in their face? And this is crazy land.
I'm still
Who
having
would have ever thought 3 months ago this would be happening?
I'm still having a hard time getting on the side of leaning more towards the lab. I'm still wet market. But
And why so?
Just because, just from a brief observation as a YouTube scientist.
Okay. I like that, YouTube scientist.
It just seems like one of those things that would be hard to control and to kind of like manufacture. I believe that, like, from also these other videos, it would be like, okay, there's a bunch of species of bats. They are in these wet markets. It's passing from like bat to pig to human or something like that. My brain still lines up and says, okay, that seems the most plausible. However, it gives me more peace to almost think that this came out of a lab. And regardless of that being a malicious act that it came out of the lab or it being more of a fumble of coming out of the lab, I like to believe that humans did have a place in this because that would make it less spontaneous. And this type of event happening spontaneously is a much more fearful place to be in than if humans actually contributed to this.
Yeah. That's a very, very good point for those who are super vigilant and scared and fearful appropriately during this area. I get your thoughts on that fully. I get your thoughts fully. So it'll be a fun one to watch to see who's involved and why, and then funding. So to be determined in the future. This will be a fun one. And as people know who follow this, Steads like to journal. LJ said, I'm not going to journal, Dad, but I will journal on a video. So that's how Purple Politics came to light. It's a dad and a son and some other buddies around the country are going to get together periodically and just talk about what was happening in 2020. And if it's useful in the future to anybody besides the Steads, we'll see. We hope it is.
Yeah, that's all it's about.
Trying to give everybody a break.
It's a fun little hobby to be able to connect with you every day. We do this every day anyway, so I figured it would be fun to at least have ourselves record this in a way that we can kind of see it in the future, because I think we've had so many really fun, authentic, great conversations in the past, and sometimes I'm like sad that we've lost them, right? And that is the beauty of life, that we get to have all these special moments, and life is a fleeting thing. But I am a person that has learned from experience of being around you that a savored memory is rarely a regret. It's always a blessing.
Absolutely. Well, it's interesting. I shared the site with a couple friends, and it's mixed. Some say, what a wonderful thing to get on with your son. We're checking it out. And others will go, really, I'd rather be out golfing or playing pickleball, which is great too. Everybody's got it different. Stead's got to move forward with the memories. And it is interesting, though. You and I both know when we did tapes when we were little, I videotaped a fair amount. And I got to give my hats off to your sister, Danielle Didi, now, who tapes, I think, her kids even more than I did.
Right.
At the time, you get a ton of pushback going, what are you doing? 20 years forward, it's like, let me see the tapes. All of a sudden, you have to just be patient, because not that I want to be a good guy, but if you're patient long enough, maybe some will recognize it was a good thing. And I think this, LJ, is a good thing.
It's fun. And if you're still with us right now and you hate this, please leave. Like, get out there. Go hang out with your family. Get outside. Go play pickleball. Don't feel obligated to finish this video.
Oh, not at all.
If it's making you cringe, you gotta head outside. Get out there. Play with your get a basketball out. Play a game with your kids. All that kind of stuff, and go have some fun. Because don't be sitting here with us if you hate it.
Because we are usually doing this about 9 or 10 at night. At the end of the day, we don't put a lot of time into getting ready, other than just the fact, let's turn on and chat. This is very slow organic. It's slow and organic. I got a book thing I'm writing on the side. My daughter always says, well, where is it? When is it? What's going on? And it's very organic, but slow. And this is slow organic, so I think we made a new word. Slow
I like
organic.
that.
What else we got?
We got the salon sentence.
Oh, man. This is where sides are just going nuts. This will be interesting to see what's going on. So this lady opened her salon early in Dallas. And she claims, I've got bills to pay and I just got to do it. And I guess it was in violation of the local authorities. I get that. But with the local political climber who sentenced her, some district attorney sentenced her to 7 days in jail and a $7,000 fine. At the same time, that up in Massachusetts, they're letting like 800 convicted felons out of jail. So proving be cautious with human behavior. Be careful with how much power you give people, because I would say both sides are blatantly. I think there could have been a different process before you, one, let all the people out of the jail in up in Massachusetts. I can't believe a call couldn't have gone out to like even Trump and said, "Hey, we got 800 people that could get COVID. What do we do? You know what? We'll send the USS Comfort up there and we'll put them all on a ship, treat them appropriately, but nobody's getting out of jail." That's bonkers land. And at the same time, this Salon sentence, 7 days and $7,000. How about you make it a point to maybe $1,000 fine? Say don't do it again. But this is a little crazy land. What are your thoughts up in down in California?
Well, if these restrictions were out there and she knew what she was up against, she was breaking the law, and that is
jail time.
Yeah, I think jail time is fine with this. I don't have much problem with this one. I think it's the government, taking a stand. If I saw them going out and like jailing every single person, then I would go, whoa, this is a horrible negative thing that's happening. I do understand that if the government's going to put a rule out there, they have to take a stand at some moment, and they're just kind of highlighting this person as this is what everybody else could be subject to if you keep open. So I think that they're just using her as an example.
It's a shot across the bow. I get it. Maybe my opinion on this is, maybe you've changed me a little bit in saying that. It's a shot across the bow. We do have to get in step a little bit, but it really fries a bunch of people. But I guess I'd go along with you. If they don't do this repeatedly and with a larger amount of people, but just use her as an example, maybe you got to use examples now and then.
Well,
that's probably
it's tough because I am kind of more on the side that I don't like the government telling us whether or not our jobs are essential, because essential to who, right? Like, all of our jobs are essential to us and our family and the community that we support. And for the government to just place, well, if you are not essential, you no longer can do this, I have a little bit of an issue to it. Now, if they put out regulations in place and say, these are the particular regulations that are in place, you have to abide by them to continue business, then it's like, okay, can't you keep your salon open if you're like in a complete like bodysuit? Fully face covered bodysuit, looking like a spaceman with scissors? Like, that still wasn't an option. So you can buy a bodysuit online for like $250, be fully covered up as if you're like going into the space station. To have a few salons open while accommodating to the heavy restrictions that the governments are putting on, I think would be fine. But for them to just say, if you are a salon, that means you have to go, I do have some problem with that a little bit. That's not to say that maybe that's not the most responsible thing that we could have done during this moment. It's always going to be something that I kind of have a little pushback against. Was like, the government decides whether or not I'm essential.
If the rules apply to everybody, but you and I both know there's so much hypocrisy, and that's why you cautiously want to remember God gave us the rights, but then we gave the rights to the government. Government isn't over us. We are over the government. God is over us. So remember the hierarchy. Don't ever think government is over you. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. They're there in place due to the population, the people, the community. Hypocrisy on both sides. The Pence thing when he didn't wear the mask, total hypocrisy. And you got to Google, who's this mayor in Chicago, Lightfoot? It's baffling. She is so hardcore on some of her constituents there. And then even to the point of you can't get your hair done. And then they found out she got her hair done, but then she says, but I'm in public, I gotta look good. Really? The rules are for everybody. Google Lightfoot and see what that's all about. What else was she getting down on her population for? I can't recall, but it was baffling.
Yeah, I can't.
That was the mayor of Chicago. I've watched so many YouTubers.
Well, I mean,
but it would.
but the thing is, if you're gonna go out there and sentence people, it's important that you do speak in the way that she's speaking. I don't think that's the way that I would go about it if I was mayor, but at least she was making it well known that we are going to punish you as if you are a criminal in this situation.
Oh, well, it was on people violating social distancing, which I hate that term. I'm pushing back hard. It's not social distancing, it's physical distancing. And you'll see me harp on that. And also, I've been doing the bump for years, and I learned that from my friends from East Africa. They bump and don't handshake. So hopefully we get rid of the handshake. We just do the bump. And then as we move forward, we try to get rid of the word social distancing, but we go to physical distancing. You said social distance, but that was what it was, LJ. She was saying, we will come into your backyards, we're going to fine you, we're going to convict you, and you have to abide by the rules. And then somebody in the meantime found out, okay, the rules are you can't get your hair done right now. Oh, but I had to go to a salon because I'm in the public. What? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Shame on her. Shame on Pence. There was a guy out in California, Ruhan, R-U-H-A-N, I think, who was saying, don't go to the beaches. He was found out on the beach. Cuomo in New York, abide by the rules, and he's out house hunting down the street. Found out, Google that one too.
He was building his new home.
Building his new home, but he was violating the rules, and he was called out by a biker passing by who got it on film, and it's Cuomo who's arrogantly defending his position.
It sounded like he kind of got up in his grill.
A prime example will say, you know what, I'm wrong, I'll go back home, guilty. None of them want to do that. None of them will do that.
And another good one was one of the scientists that led one of the initial studies that said that 2 million people were going to die from this. 2 million in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
He got caught at his lover's house, who was a married mother of 2. And so he's already been recently fired because he was one of the biggest proponents of saying this is going to be one of the biggest disasters that we've ever experienced on Earth. And he's caught.
He's exposing all those people to COVID.
Well, he got caught like having an affair at the family's house of the lady that he's having an affair with. So it's like bizarre.
Humans are humans. Always question authority. Always question authority. Do not accept that this is the way it's got to be. Question them. Things can be right that are handed down from government, but always question authority, without a doubt.
I'm not going to give anybody crap for going out and taking a walk, though. I go, look, I understand that you're going to have to put down some heavy rules and regulations, but everybody deserves a walk. And walks are always better on the beach. So,
it's so baffling. Thinking of respiratory things, tuberculosis, they used to keep them inside, and they found out the worst thing you could do is keep people inside. Get them out, get them in the air. The best thing to help your immune system is to be outside. Vitamin D, challenging your immune system every day, keeping it strong by challenging it. That's what outdoors does. To stay in like weeks to months at a time, and our heart goes out to people in New York City, that makes your immune system suppressed. So I think, luckily, we are going to hopefully live through this time period and have come out of it on the other end, having learned tons of information, because I think we're doing a lot of things wrong that we could improve on. Keeping people inside versus outside was one of them. Tough to do in New York, and the process will have to be worked out different. That would be a big one I hope we improve on. And then somehow interacting with those that are in long care facilities. Here's an example. Well, here's the update. I think in the world, I think there was 74,000 deaths now in America. Our hearts goes out to anybody involved with that. That is a tragedy and so sad. In Minnesota, 423 deaths, 8 in Olmsted County, but 80% of the deaths have been in long-term facilities and rest homes. Somehow we have to mitigate that to address that isn't the case moving forward. Real good, one of my best buddies hasn't been able to touch his mom for 8 weeks. You can't tell me that isn't affecting her well-being and health, because health isn't just physical health. Health is mental health, emotional health, spiritual health. Somehow we got to get a process where you can at least touch somebody if they're in. I hope in 3 more cycles of this I'm still around and they've improved enough that you don't have to put me in a facility, because next time around already aged people I know are going, do not, the message is not only do not resuscitate, do not intubate, but do not put me in a nursing home. Because if you're put in a nursing home now, you're locked down. You can't go in, they can't come out. They have to improve the process of somehow interacting better than that. So let's hope they do. And I'm sure they will. I bet they come up with some type of way to even both you have a gown on, you're touching each other, somehow they have to improve that.
Well, and I mean, I'm sure if it's your family member's last dying day, it's like, quarantine me as long as you want after this. I'm going in.
Absolutely.
So it's like, I don't see why we can't figure out a way that that individual or then that family member or that group of people that know this person can't go in and be with them on their last day.
I can tell you in the future, if I get to that age and this comes around, I'm getting out.
Yeah, we'll break you out.
Right now, they can have an anklet bracelet on me, they can whatever. Don't put me in, I'm coming out. Let me die quietly at home.
We'll break you out. So last topic is keeping it local. What's the local happenings?
Oh, this, for anybody that's old watching this will get it, and I think you will too, to the old and the young. When we're super old or super young and we have some additional time on our hands, when guys are out doing stuff, manly stuff, and women, like doing road stuff, road work. Well, we have some major road work in our area today, and I'm standing out there with a bunch of kids, and we're watching this guy chop up our road with this one big machine, pulverizing it, and putting into the back of the truck. And I can remember when we were kids, you even seeing, it would be 12 guys out there doing this job with jackhammers and whatnot. Now it's one guy in the machine and one guy in the truck. It was amazing.
And it's just a drive-by.
I go out there and videotape the guy, and I give the sum up, the guy that's driving the truck. He was smiling ear to ear. It's the dream job. They're doing a job. They took down our street about 4 inches, and now they're pulverizing it. Now they're going to bring and lay that same material back. It's crazy. It's crazy what's going on. So that's a huge shout out. And at the same time, when they did that, they took the bumps out. Thank God. We had to spend thousands of dollars per family to do it, and it was worth it because we have multiple bumps to get to everyone's house. And when you're old, everyone understands this. It ruins the shocks on your car. And when you're going over, it makes you think, I'm old. I refuse bumps. So the community got together, and this is where community and politics can work. We pushed the thing to get rid of the bumps. Well, that's a huge win.
You know what?
Huge win for local politics.
You know what I think they should do? So, how often is someone actually speeding with those bumps, right? Most of the time, it's the local residents that are driving slowly because they want to roll slow and they don't want to interrupt the neighborhood. There's grandkids, there's kids, and you're worried about the lives around you, so you're going to drive slow through your neighborhood. I want to have an instant release spike strips that happen if you go over a certain mileage. So if they're going 45 miles an hour in your neighborhood, spike strip them. They'll never do it again. And you put up a sign, like a custom alarm sign, that says, we have speed strips. And if you go over 35 miles an hour in this area, we speed strip you.
I like it. I like it.
It'll never happen again.
Interesting thought. And then finally, we've been talking about hydrochloroquine and Zithromax. Let's continue to watch that because there was so much pushback on Trump that it was a terrible idea. And yet there's a fair amount of studies showing maybe it's a valid, worthwhile thing to consider. So I'm always baffled when there's something that comes forward that certainly life can be lost, even with hydrochloroquine. One of our local doctors came out and said that you really needed to be tested because there could be cardiac concerns. Do it under the doctor's order. Absolutely. But it's an option. It's been around for decades and it's inexpensive. So meet with your doctor and see if this is an option. But to blatantly slam it down is a terrible idea. That's baffling. That would be a shame on anybody who does that because that's baffling.
Well, and I mean, it's one of those things. I don't think Trump really gets that grace because he doesn't give that grace, and it is one of those like chicken or the egg types of things. But as the leader of the free world and you're the president, I think you have to lead and lead by example. And the example that he leads with is, I will bash you into a pulp until the end of time. And so people take after him, right? And they say, okay, you set the ground rules and we're going to bash you like a pulp. He says that the media set those ground rules, and so let the games begin. Those are the rules that those two parties are always going to play by that right now.
Yeah. Well, it does seem that way, no doubt about it. Well, give me your closing thoughts tonight. What are you thinking? From the Heartland, it was fun just being outside today and watching the road graders go by and get rid of the bumps. So it's a great day here. Couldn't be better. How about in California?
I'm excited for the parks and hiking trails to get open, the beaches to be open. It's great. I think it's that's really all we need. You know, like people, like when it comes to the job elements, that's going to be a wild ride for all of us. I don't know how that's going to play out. But as far as me talking about like the mental health priority within this COVID, I give kudos to at least the governor at this point. We'll see if city's officials also step up to the plate to open up the parks and beaches, because now it's good as far as a mental health component. I feel like we are free in being able to live the lives that are allowing our immune system to be at its healthiest and max place. And I don't feel like the government's fighting against that anymore, which is a positive thing.
That is huge. Yeah, I think the only state really struggling now is Michigan. I think I talked to a couple of people directly from there, and that's still a challenge. And we could maybe get them on the air one day, and you can get their thoughts. It's going to be, one last thought, it's going to be so fun because states are doing it so differently. We have California with basically 40 million, Texas with 30 million, Florida and New York, I think. New York's a little over 20 million, Florida a little under 20. Then you start getting down to what Ohio, Pennsylvania are about 12 million, Minnesota 6 million. It'll be fun to see those states and how they did it, how they did it differently, and statistically see moving forward which way we should be going. So it's a learning environment. We're sailing across Lake Pepin in a storm.
Yeah, and I think for either side, if you're trying to win political points, I wouldn't give out grades until probably next May. I think
no grades yet.
Don't give out grades for about a year on this one. That doesn't mean that I don't think it's appropriate for you to apply criticisms when you think they're necessary, but as far as like an overall grade, be careful to jump to too many conclusions early.
Absolutely. So, well, good, buddy. Well, thank you. Again, parting thoughts always for me, faith, family, friends, football, and God bless America. Of course, fear and panic, don't do it. Don't let the media go there with you or the political parties, either side. Facts, pause with the cause, and final action, the only way to go. And then absolutely perseverance with faith and hope in the future is where to go. Leading by example, make it happen, service above self. Really proud of your project here, buddy. This is great.
I love it. Love you, Dad, and Godspeed.